When life gives you lemon, try to make lemonade, Mandy whispered to her friend as the king approached them. Long live the king, Mandy and Ineka bowed to the king as he approached. What is your name? He gestured to Mandy, who never thought in a million years a king would want to talk to her or even look her way. I'm Mandy, your majesty, Mandy replied with a stammer. Ineka was the beauty of the village. She was the talk of the town. Men fought to have her attention, and women envied her beauty. That was the only life Ineka knew, everyone falling at her feet. The king, completely ignoring Mandy, was an insult to her and her beauty, but she pretended to smile before the king. Call me Obiko, the king said to Mandy, completely ignoring Ineka, who stood just right next to Mandy. His world stopped when he first noticed Mandy, a beautiful, naive girl whose smile could brighten up a room. She was beautiful in every way. Obiko could not take his eyes off her. She was going to be his forever. Ineka sped off, leaving Mandy behind. Mandy knew her friend Ineka and her patterns of thought. Being the most beautiful maiden in Amante, she thought she deserved everything good in life, including the king's attention. Mandy sighed at the thought. Weeks that followed, Ineka continued to ignore Mandy. Mandy, on the other hand, knew her friend's behavior, so she gave her space until she had cooled down. One evening on her way to the farm, Mandy crossed paths with Ineka. Ineka, in all seriousness, said to Mandy, "What is so unique about you that the king approached you instead of me? I, Ineka, is the most beautiful young lady in this village. You are not even pleasant to the eyes." Mandy, hurt at the words of her best friend, said something that would change her life forever. "I don't like the king. You can have him all to yourself. Just please don't be mad at me." This statement pleased Ineka a lot. She then added, Promise me, if the king approaches you the next time, you would ignore him. I want him for myself." The naive Mandy said, "Okay, anything for my best friend." This was Mandy's downfall. As Mandy and Ineka neared her home, she saw the king and the palace staff at her home. Ineka's heart skipped a beat. She knew what this meant. Immediately, she dropped the produce from the farm on her head and began crying. "Promise me you'd never marry the king." She took Mandy's hand and placed it on her head with tears. Mandy's mother, who had seen this, abruptly ran to her daughter before she could make promises and snatched her away from Ineka. The king smiled with love at the sight of Mandy, the woman who made him forget how to even breathe. "My daughter, the king is here to see you," Mandy's dad said to her with all smiles. Ineka stood afar in tears, dreading what was about to happen. Mandy, in loyalty to her friend, immediately said to the king, "I am grateful to be in your presence, your majesty, but I don't want you. My friend there, on the other hand," she said, pointing to Ineka, "is interested in you, so please leave me alone." Mandy entered her heart, leaving the king surprised and dumbfounded, and her parents shocked, and Ineka happy. The king's laughter echoed through the compound, the first time in his life that a woman wasn't flocking to him or wanting him. This made him want her more. He got up and walked to Ineka, who still stood afar, and said to her, I will never marry you. I will never marry a lowlife like you. Or maybe I might. If you are able to convince Mandy to marry me, you might be a second wife to me. The king realized Nneka's influence on Mandy, so he decided to use it to his advantage. Nneka raced into Mandy's heart, and before the king could return to his seat, Nneka brought out Mandy, and to the surprise of everyone, she agreed to marry the king. The marriage ceremony of the two friends took the village by storm. Everyone was happy for Nneka, in the large crowd of natives celebrating the union of the two women. One woman said, "I am sure Nneka forced the king to marry her friend Mandy." Another said, "Nneka is so beautiful. I wish my son had married her." All and what everyone talked about was Nneka. The palace and its staff welcomed the two queens with submission and respect. In the span of just a day, the whole palace had gotten to know the difference between the two queens. One had a beautiful face, but an ugly soul, and the other had a casual face, yet a beautiful soul. They began to hate Nneka and like Mandy. The king's love for Mandy grew day by day. He spent most of his days in the chambers of Mandy, and not once did he spend the night with Nneka. And the whole palace knew this, and they rejoiced at her dismay. She ordered people around and insulted most of the servants in the palace, so no one actually liked her. Nneka devised a plan to eliminate Mandy, just to attain the love and affection that the king never gave to her. Maybe if she wasn't alive anymore, he would look my way, she said. She walked into the kitchen of the palace while no one was watching and dropped a powdery substance into her food and left the kitchen all smiles. The maid who had come to love Mandy realized the food was in small portions, so she dumped it into Nneka's plate and plated another meal for the pregnant Mandy with love and affection. Mandy, oblivious to the food swish, ate the food with joy and happiness, hoping to hear cries from the palace. But instantly she began having stomachache and began foaming at the mouth. And before anyone could arrive to save her, her life ended right before her eyes.